presented by Konami.
It's Gradius. Let me take you on a journey through this enduring 1980s classic arcade series and its modern revival. Let's start with the original Gradius, which didn't quite invent a genre but did reinvent one perhaps, birthing an array of sequels and spin-offs as well as many imitators. It was a big deal back in the hot pink eon and its legacy still lives with us now. In development for about a year, early 1985 was when this made its debut in Japan, and it was perhaps not an easy birth. The team behind it, headed by Makiguchi Hiroyasu, were pretty anxious about putting together this, their first game. Perhaps understandable given the standards of Konami's previous work that they had to live up to, but they rose to the challenge though and brought a game that totally reinvented the shooter genre. It was a major leap ahead from so much that came before it in graphics and sound, but what made Gradius really special though was the gameplay. Yes, there had definitely been other shooters before it, but none with such an insane variety of enemies to shoot, bullets to dodge and scenery to navigate. Each level has its own unique hazards to deal with, from erupting volcanoes to bubble-blowing moai heads and another brand new feature, destructible scenery. The biggest innovation though is probably in its power-up system. Not the first game with power-ups of course, but Gradius did something unique with them. Take the risk and collect the power capsules dropped by marked enemies, and abilities on the power bar will be highlighted. The more power capsules you pick up, the further along the power bar you'll be able to select from, and you can, and in fact you'll need, to activate multiple power-ups at once. So what do you go for first? More speed? More firepower? It's all a bit of a trade-off, and it sort of adds an extra layer of strategy. It's risk and reward, and it also gives you the chance to tailor your ship's loadout to your liking. So many games that came after Gradius borrowed from this brilliant idea. Maybe not the exact same system, but so the idea of taking risks to customise your abilities, using power-ups to upgrade your character on the fly as you play the game. That was an idea that stuck around. And of course Gradius was a big success in the arcades, so no surprise there was going to be a follow-up, and released just a year later in 1986 was Salamander. This is more of a spin-off than a sequel. It's a new game with new features including simultaneous two-player action and a slightly modified power-up system. There's more of a sort of biological theme to this one, with more destructive backgrounds that this time heal up as you fly through them, plus some terrifying alien prongs to deal with. Just to cap off the already terrifying first level, things come to, well, a head with an encounter with a giant brain with arms. The kind of things other games would definitely save for the last level final showdown, but here it's only an amuse-bouche for what is to come. Salamander also has another pioneering feature that you might have already noticed in the form of multiplane parallax scrolling. Yes, there's two different background layers moving independently to give the impression of depth, shown off beautifully throughout the game. This effect became a hallmark of the 16-bit era, and whilst Salamander wasn't the first game to do something like this, I think it might be the first to use two completely separate layers. Honestly, so many games that came afterwards did this same trick. They did it repeatedly, another massively influential innovation. Next in the series was a true sequel to the original, Gradius II Gopher no Yabo. Released in 1988, this was also known as Vulcan Venture outside Japan, and this true sequel really does live up to the original, outdoing it in every way possible whilst still remaining true to its arcade spirits. The first level with the burning planetoids and the enormous fire dragons has got to be one of the most iconic openings in shooter history. It goes for shock and awe with these huge enemies that you can really only dodge and hope for the best. A scary start that segues into a banquet of equally terrifying stuff throughout the rest of the game. Some familiar looking, yes, those moai heads are back and they're just as passively terrifying as they ever were, and there's some new things to worry about too. Salamander was actually the first game in the series to have speech effects, but Gradius II brought the whole over as most memorable line. Shoot the core, or destroy the core as it sometimes is, a rule to live by, but very prescient here. Yeah, I haven't really talked about bosses all that much yet, but that was another Gradius innovation. Not the first appearance of bosses in games, but the Gradius series made them a main event, the guardian at the end of every nerve-rattling stage, another thing that many other games borrowed from. Gradius II also saw the introduction of another sequence that spawned many imitators, the boss rush. Yes, stage 7 is nothing but bosses all the way down. It fills you up with bosses from the previous games, and then there's an extra boss just for you. Gradius III came next, perhaps the third in the series if my calculations are correct, but we still haven't left the 80s, this one sliding in at the tail end of that glorious decade in 1989. Again, more Gradius, yes, but it's not samey, it's familiar, but still a thrill. Listless Moai heads spew emotionless vengeance once again, and disturbing alien tissue encompasses more tunnels of creeping doom, but there's also globulous bubbles of, well, something to contend with, and just to keep your fingers on their toes, there's a wonderful pseudo 3D section too. It's brief, but wow, Konami could just not let up with the good ideas, and this is where the series really got into a groove. It might not seem quite as innovative, just because the previous games did so much, but it does all make for the most fun to play game in the series if you ask me, and also for my money the one with the most pleasant soundtrack. Things were moving fast at the time, games were changing, and Konami must have had a lot on their plate, but Gradius III is still a pearl. The final entry in the vintage arcade series is Salamander II from 1996. Quite a long gap, but it was worth the wait. Yes, whilst the rest of the gaming world was leaning heavily into 3D, Konami still had it in them to bring classic 2D action. What isn't so classic here is the arcade hardware that this ran on, based on a 32-bit processor with capabilities quite a bit more advanced than the solidly 16-bit predecessors. Lots of gorgeous pre-rendered sprites, kaleidoscopically colourful backgrounds with some nice transparency effects, and, as ever, lots and lots of enemies, bullets, and plenty of bosses. But at this point you might be thinking that, well, this is all well and good, but I don't just want to be a passerby, I want to experience these games for myself. And yes, you might have already guessed that this video was leading somewhere. The footage that I've been showing you is all from Gradius Origins. This new collection of Gradius games from Konami includes all 6 of the original arcade games, including Life Force, the updated version of Salamander. It's an exhaustive set of the original classics with all the various international releases and a very rare prototype of Gradius III to boot. It's also got quite a lot of quality of life improvements too. If you want to play these games in the original hardcore mode, you totally can, but you can also make things a bit more accessible with a range of options including saves, more forgiving collision detection, and even full-on invincibility if you want it. You can tailor the difficulty to your liking just to see the games through, or get the skills you need for a 1-credit clear unaided if that's what you want to go for. And yes, local co-op is available if you want to really relive the old school experience, and there's online leaderboards as well. The best part of this collection though surely has to be Salamander 3. Yes, a whole new game, a whole new entry in the series. Authenticity is the watchword here though, this fits right into the original classic lineup seamlessly. It's not some watered down reimagining, but a proper new entry in the series that keeps everything that made it so loved by fans and adds a little more too. It's certainly just as difficult as the originals too, and it really does play like an old school arcade game, and it fits perfectly into the series. This whole collection and the new game has been published by Konami, but it's the legendary M2 who's actually put this together, and they certainly have form in this field. You will definitely know them if you follow this sort of thing. They are totally the gold standard when it comes to resurrecting classics. They've done this before and they really know what they're doing, and this time they've delivered just as much as they ever have done. So, in all, well done Konami for absolutely nailing this whole series and its new rebirth. So, find Gradius Origins on your favourite platform and you can join in the arcade revolution. I would highly recommend it.